We'll do a review in Likutei Sichos and Chelek Lamed Gimel. This is the first Sicha for the Parsha Shelach. The Rebbe analyzes the Rashi's view about the Meraglim. There seems to be a conflict in several Rashis whether the Meraglim were actually bad to begin with, and seems like Rashi says that uh, they needed to be protected to shua from the advice, and then it says that they were kosher. Were they proper in the beginning? Were they bad from the start? The Rebbe will show different Rashis, and the Rebbe will explain eventually that they weren't really bad in the beginning, but the reason that Moshe Rabbeinu had to pray for Yehoshua wasn't because Yehoshua would fall for something bad of the Meraglim. It was just Atzas Meraglim, the counsel, which means the Rebbe explains that Hashem sent them only to search the land. There's a difference between a Meragil and Losur. Losser to scout, a scouter just finds out the facts, but he doesn't deploy any tricks how to figure out. The spies, they had this additional thing. They didn't just go. They came back to Moshe. They wanted to have Simonim, as the Rebbe will develop. So it turns out they started out as kosher and they didn't do anything wrong. But just the fact that they wanted to become Meraglim versus just looking at it, that allowed for later on to develop. Now, how come Moshe Rabbeinu sent them? This is all part of the discussion over here, if they were really bad, as we'll see in the Sikha. But let's go step by step. Aleph. Bepirush Rashi beparshoseinu benegei lemeraglim. In our Rashi, in the Rashi in our Parsha, as it pertains to the Meraglim, we find contradiction. What the standing of the Meraglim was at the time they were sent, when he first sent them out. We know for sure by the time they came back that they were, most of them, the 10 of them said bad, and only Yeshua and Kalev. But at the time that they were sent, it seems to be a conflict in Rashi what their status was. In the beginning of the parsha, the posik says on the posik, they were all men. When it says that they picked them, kulam anoshim. So Rashi teaches, what do we say? All men, men of stature. They were important people. So Mefarish Rashi, so Rashi explains, at that hour, at the time when they were sent, they were kosher. That's what they were anoshim. They were men. They were people, respectable people. They were the head of their tribes. And that's really the reason why they were sent. So Rashi seems to immediately tell us that at that time, even though later on they made terrible mistake, they came back with a bad report. But at the time, ksherim hoyu, they were kosher. Avol behem shecho. But later on, Rashi's in the hemshech of the parsha la posik. Vayikra Moshe leHosheya bin Nun Yehoshua. It says that Yeshua was chosen, and he says that he referred to Hosheya ben Nun. He called him Yeshua. Why did he change his name when he picked them for the mission? Why did he change his name to Yehoshua? So Rashi Pirish, his palalolov. This was Moshe Rabbeinu's praying for Yehoshua. Yudke Yeshiacho Matzas Meraglim. Yudke Yehoshua, the Yudke that he added. Hashem should help you from the advice of these spies. So when you read this Rashi, it seems like Rashi is saying that they were counseling bad. And right at the onset, Moshe Rabbeinu was worried that, and he prayed specially for Yehoshua to be protected from this counsel of the Meraglim. The Mizeh Mashma, so from this it appears, Shekvar Oz Hirgish Moshe Rish Osum Shal HaMeraglim. Already then, at the time of sending, Moshe Rabbeinu sensed that the evilness of the Meraglim. So, what was it? If they were Kishedim, why did he have to pray for Yehoshua? What does Rashi say? To protect him from the Atzas Meraglim. And this is likely also very clear in the Rashi later on the verse when the Pasuk says Vayelchu Vayavoyu El Moshe. They're coming back with the bad report. So the Pasuk says they went and they came back. Why does it have to say they went and they came back? Should just say they came back. Why did they went and they came back? So Rashi comments. Vayelchu Vayavoyu El Moshe. Zokt Rashi. Ma bi osom be'etzoro. Just like they came back, was with bad counsel. They spoke bad about bad advice, bad counsel, that we can't go up to Eretz Yisrael. They came back with the report. So also, as they were leaving, that was also with bad counsel. So Rashi seems to very clearly say that as they were leaving, as they were going, they were at Eitzara. Like it says, that he had to call him Yehoshua to protect him with Tzas Meraglim. So, but then Rashi says they were kosher at the time. So what one? What were they kosher or not? Behine, b'yishuv hastiram b'pirush Rashi ala posik vayelchu vayavoyu. To answer the contradiction from Rashi on the verse vayelchu vayavoyu, that it says there that they went. Kvarbir mefarshim. The Mefarshim explained Shazohu diyuka shel Rashi lifnei. This is what Rashi specifically uses the language before when he says "V'oiso sho'ok shedim hoyu." What does Rashi have to say? At that time, the kulam anoshim Rashi should say shedim hoyu. They were kosher. Why does Rashi say the oiso hasho at that time? So this is Mefarshim explained very precise to tell us the rak b'sho shenivcharu v'nismanu kshedim hoyu. But only at the time that they were chosen. The pasuk says, "Kulam anoshim." When they were chosen, they were kesherim hoyu. That's why they were chosen. When they were chosen, they were kosher. La'afuki, to exclude la'acharosh after that point in which they were chosen already. So when they went, vayelchu vayavoyu. When they went, they were already eitzara. Mishechziku b'derech. Once they started the road, vayelchu. They turned and became evil. So this would explain. So according to this interpretation of the Mefarshim and the Rashi, so as soon when they were chosen, they were kishedim. As soon as they went on the road, they already turned. And it was halichosum be'etzoro. Okay, but that does not answer the Rashi that the Rebbe brought down that Moshe Rabbeinu prayed for Yehoshua, which was right then when they were chosen. That was before they went. Right away when they were chosen, it says he changed Yeshua's name from Hosea to Yehoshua Yudke Yoshiacha. Shem should protect him. This does not answer what Rashi writes. Moshe hispalel al Talmidei Yehoshua. That Moshe was davening for his student Yehoshua. Yudke Yeshua Chomatzas Meraglim. Rashi says that he was davening for Yeshua, that Hashem should protect him from the device of the Meraglim. But this was not later on ben Vayelchu later, but right when they were chosen. Lifnei hascholos halichosim b'derech. Before they began, this was before Lifnei, before they began to go on the road. And already he is saying, Yudke Yeshua, Hashem should protect you from them. So how is that going to be explained if they are Keshedim Hoyu? They only got the bad advice once they moved onto the road. Okay, so these Mefarshim say that it took place when they started going. But there's other Mefarshim that want to say, no, it didn't even, they turned and became bad. Meraglim, they became not only when they started the road. As soon as they were chosen, then they turned into Rishoyim. Yes, Mefarshim, there's other Mefarshim that say, but Rashi says that Oisha means exactly just as soon as they were chosen, and then they were chosen, they turned. Yes, Mefarshim, Shembiyad Acha Shehurar, Kvar Lo Hoyu. As soon that it was Huvraru, as soon as they were chosen, already they weren't kosher. So that would mean that Yeshua needed the bracha right then, after they were chosen. Obiyaru. And they explain what happened here. So how did this happen that they were kosher and then all of a sudden? So the betchila kshehuvraruk shedim hoyu. At the beginning, when they were chosen, they were kosher. V'tziva lahem Moshe shlichus api Hashem, and Moshe gave them the mission based on by Hashem, liris es ha'oretz ketzad hoyson noichel lichavish. They should see the land, how it would be easy to conquer. That was the instruction and the shlichus that Moshe Rabbeinu gave them from Hashem to go and see the land, how it's easy to conquer. But the nitz not bahem yetzer hara, so the yetzer hara sparkled in them, got a hold of them, the yetzer hara. And Moshe, they came to Moshe, limser lahem simonim ba'aretz. He says, we want to know signs, want to know what the land is like. Im toiva, v'imra, is it a good or a bad land? You told us to look at the land, how it's easy to conquer. They wanted to know more information. They came back to Moshe, give us a sign. We should know if it's a good or bad. And the people over there, the nation that we're going to, is he a strong one or is he a weak one? And the fortified cities, these walled cities, are they, or the big cities, the krachim, are they in fortified? Are they in walled? Are they b'mifsorim? So they were asking all kinds of details to find out other things. So then Moshe Rabbeinu already sensed that their intention is bad. He's telling them to go look, and they're asking all these kind of questions. Why should they go investigate more than they were instructed, the commanded? And that's why he writes, that's why he says, Vayikra Moshe Yehoshua. That's why the pasuk says, say them a farshim. It's in this Moshe Rabbeinu sensed that the intention is for the bad. Why do they need to go? So that's why Vayikra Moshe Yehoshua. Once he sensed their bad inclination. So then immediately he prayed for Yehoshua. He prayed for Yehoshua. So according to them, there was a reason what happened. They were chosen, and then they came back to Moshe to ask more details, to find out more details, which he wasn't originally told by Hashem. And Moshe already gives them the answer to their questions, the Mefzodim, or this, all the details as in the Parsha. But this was initiated by the Meraglim. So Moshe Rabbeinu realized, felt, there's something, a problem there. And that's why he prayed for Yehoshua. Oh, but the Rebbe says this is very difficult to explain. And as the Rebbe will bring out three questions, but in the third questions, the Rebbe will say the main question, so why did he send them? If if on the road, okay, they were gone already. He couldn't stop them maybe. But if while they were chosen, before they're going, he already senses that they have bad intentions over here, so why did he continue to send them? But I've asked three questions. Because Abu Pirush said, we need really to understand this Pirush. Because, first of all, according to this, it is a very short while that they were kosher. Oisha means from the time that they were chosen till they come back to ask Moshe Rabbeinu about how to tell whether there's a chazak, all the details. So Rashi, Aleph kosher b'yesel loimer is very difficult to say. Shekavonas Rashi. B'mashekosuv oisa shok shedim hoyu. What Rashi means when he says at that point they were kosher, hirak lizman kotzer b'yesel. It's a very short time. Mishas haminui, from the time that they were appointed, at shechozru l'Moshe limselem simonim ba'aretz, until they came back to Moshe, that Moshe should give them signs for the land. Such a small place. Aisha Shah means mamish a short place. It's difficult. Okay, so now maybe they were chosen. Maybe there was some time, and then later on they came back with the. But the Rebbe says in Pashas the Psukim, it seems that happened rapidly. There was telling them right in the beginning. He chose them, and then he gives them the simonim, and that was in response to their inquiry. So bepashtus loy hoyso shehiyah zman. Simply, there was no delay in time ben hismanusam, between the time they were appointed. L'divrei Moshe aleim alu zeh banegev. Go up, go up, and you see the land in which he gives them all the details that they were asking for the simonim, and this happened right away. So oisa shok shedim hayu was a very short time. That's difficult, very difficult. Base. Lipirusham hable lemeimer l'Rashi. According to this interpretation, Rashi should have said be'esis manusam ksherim hayu ukiyitzebay at the time they were appointed, because this was, first of all, Oisha Shah doesn't mean that so much as the Rebbe has first. That is mashma such a small time. But Rashi should have better said. The Rebbe asks in number 2. I should have said at the time that they were appointed, they were kishedim, because shortly after they changed it. Why does that say Oisha Shah? So at the time they were appointed. But the main question, Gimel v'Ikir, as mentioned, is why did Moshe Rabbeinu send them that? Im hirgish Moshe. Shekavanosum l'ro. If Moshe Rabbeinu sensed that their intention is bad, Madu amad b'bchiros l'shloich Meraglim ha'ela. So why did he continue stand by his choice to send these scouter, these Meraglim, l'sholach achreim acherim tachteim? Why doesn't he replace them with others? Who should not have bad intentions. So for sure, this was up to Moshe. Moshe could have changed it. So there was nobody else at the time. The Rebbe says it's very difficult. So Rebbe adds more details now. Others over here, but we'll concentrate on the pnim in the sikha. So, if we should say that at that time when they were chosen, they're already bad, so why did Moshe Rabbeinu say that? Now, Mashabiru b'meforshim. Forshim explained he sent them because he was hoping that maybe they will bring the other scholars to make they'll do tshuva. They will be a good influence on them. But Rebbe doesn't think that this would be taking a risk of Klal Yisrael on a maybe that they will change their mind, they'll be able to influence. Didn't think if he felt that they were bad, he shouldn't have said that. And this that Meforshim explains. Hatam Shemoshe Hispalel al Yehoshua Sheyinosum Atzas Meraglim. They explain why did Moshe Rabbeinu pray to save him from the Atzas Meraglim? Why didn't he say just don't go? He didn't stop him from going with them. Why did he have to pray for him? So the Meforshim explains. Kisover Moshe Rabbeinu thought Ula Yehoshua v'kolev yuchlu lahachzirim memachshav tomorrow. Perhaps Yeshua and Kolev will be able to bring them back from their bad thoughts, and they will change their minds. He will. So he didn't stop him, but he prayed for him. But the Rebbe said that ain't a miyashiv shailazu. That does not answer the question. The question we have before us, if Moshe felt that they were bad, we're not asking why did Moshe not. You want to know why Moshe Rabbeinu did not stop them? Okay, that's a good answer. Moshe Rabbeinu did not stop them because he wanted them to maybe influence them. But our question over here is, why did he send them? Why didn't he replace them with other? Einem yashiv shalazu. The eich yikones besofik ras kobnei Yisrael. How would he enter Moshe in a questionable, a doubt? Maybe all Jews will suffer if they come back with a bad report. Mipnei she'ula yatzlichu Yehoshua v'kolev lachzirim l'toiv, because perhaps Yeshua and Kolev will succeed to bring him back to the good. So why did he have to lie? So this doesn't answer the question. For Yeshua himself, why he let them go and didn't stop them, we understand. Because he thought maybe he can convince them, he didn't want to stop them. But why did he send everybody? He should just stop the whole thing. He doesn't have to send them all together. So why does he have to make them, maybe they will, Yeshua and Kolev will return everybody and change their mind, have them turn away from their bad plans. Don't send them and there will be no issue. And the Rebbe will continue now in his base to explore on this whole issue, why did Moshe Rabbeinu send them in the first place, as the Rebbe will continue to explain. So basically, the Rebbe says it's very difficult to say that when Rashi says that was only when they were chosen and immediately they changed their minds and they became Rishoyim, and that's why you had to pray for Yeshua, because it seems the third question, which is the main question, then why would Moshe Rabbeinu send them all together if he sensed that they were bad? So, Oisbeis. And the Rebbe says, well, the Emerson, the question is, why did he send them all together? It's not only a question why he let these people go. If we look at the Rashi brings down that the Eibishter actually did not send him, tell him to send them. It was only Moshe Rabbeinu's idea. But if Moshe Rabbeinu saw that the whole intention was negative over here, Why did he even agree to send him in the first place? So maybe something is going on. So the Rebbe is going to explore now, and also with the way it took place as it's recounted in the Chumash and Dvorim, about how the process of the spies came about, seemed like all negative, and still Moshe Rabbeinu sent them. But the Rebbe explains there's still a difference of sending people that you think that are going to come back with a bad report with the whole concept of the shlich. Let's look aside. Based. L'chayre yesh lishol ke'ein shai lazu al klolus inyan shuluch hamraglim. L'chayre, you can ask a very similar question, and the general idea of sending Meraglim, just like we're asking, why did Moshe Rabbeinu send these spies if he knows they're bad? And the whole idea, so Lepirish Rashi, according to Rashi, Kvar ba'ascholas hadover yoda Moshe she'eino inyan rotzu. Already, very beginning, Moshe Rabbeinu knew this was not something very desirable. This whole shlichus, and still he did not hold back from sending. They sent it. So this is a general question we have in the beginning. Hine al posik shlach lecha anoshim. Pirush Rashi, Shlach lecha ledaitcha. On the pasuk Shlach Anoshim, Rashi says, send them according to your understanding. Shlach lecha, lecha doesn't say Shlach Anoshim. So Rashi explained, why does it say send to you? You're what you think. Ani eini mitzavelach. I am not telling you, I'm not instructing you. Im tirtzeh shlach, if you want, send. Lefi shabo Yisrael v'amru. Since the Yidden came and said, Nishlacha anoshim lefaneinu. They said, let us send people before us. In Dvorim, when Moshe Rabbeinu was recounting what have they said, let's send people before us. Amar HaKadosh Baruch Hu, Hashem says, Ani amarti lahem shehi Eretz Yisrael toiva, shehi toiva. I told them that she, Eretz Yisrael, is good. That's what I told them. You don't have to check it up. Chayeyem, by their life. Shani noisim lahem mokum litos. V'divra Meraglim leman lo yishrashu. I'm going to allow for a space for a mistake in the words of the Meraglim, so that they're not going to inherit it. So the Eibishter is saying to Moshe Rabbeinu, spies aren't necessary because I told them that it's a good land. Now that you want to make sure, I'm going to allow for a mistake. So even though that Moshe heard from Hashem himself that it's not necessary to Meraglim, Moshe's opinion, which is l'daitcha, that's shlach l'chol l'daitcha, he agreed to it. Moshe agreed to send the spies because he didn't ask for it, even though Hashem said it's not necessary. This thing is more clearly articulated in the Rashi Parshat Dvorim. Moshe Rabbeinu says they came and said, let us send spies. Moshe says, yep, good. And this is more articulated in the Rashi. That the reason why Moshe Rabbeinu agreed to send the Meraglim, it's only because he thought maybe you're going to retract once you see. They said, let's go check it out. Moshe Rabbeinu says, you know what? You want to check it out? Go ahead. Not that Moshe Rabbeinu really wanted them to go, but he thought that by saying to them, go ahead, you want to check it out? Go check it out. They won't want to send anymore. And he brings an example. Kamoshel Shemei Visham. Rashi brings there in Dvorim the example, the parable Sham. He says, he says to his friend, I want you to sell me this donkey. Amar lei, hein, okay, he says, I'll sell it to you. So he asks him, Nois noi atalil nisoyin. Will you give it to me for a test ride? I should see what the donkey is like. Amar lei, hein, go ahead, take it for a test. And then Rashi concludes, Kivon sharosh ein makvi klum. Since he said he wants to take it on the mountains, he wants to take it on the downhill, he wants to ride the donkey, everything. But he saw shein makvi klum. He says he does not. He's allowing him to do test. Amar alikech beliboy. So the buyer says to himself in his heart, "Batuach huzeh shaloi emtzi boimu." This person is so sure I'm not going to find any problem. There's no blemish going to be there because he's allowing me to test it. Mayad. So he says, I don't have to test it. You take your money, and here's your money for your donkey. I'm not testing him because the fact that he allowed him to test it. So Moshe Rabbeinu was thinking, if he's telling the Yidden, go ahead and check it out, they're going to say, we don't need to check it out. Harei lehedya. So this is very clearly. The Av Shemoshe Hirgi Shaloi Hoiso Kavanas Bnei Yisrael L'Toiva, although that he felt that their intention was not for the good. Because they were saying he was just allowing them to check it if they want to. And not only is the actual request what they asked, but the way they came to ask it. Rashi describes over there the way they came to ask Nishlach Anoshim was also a whole big tumult, a mixture of nitan lahovin game etzem oifen bakoshes b'nei Yisrael. You can also understand it from the actual way, the way they requested it. Kipirush Rashi Sham. As Rashi explains there, Shekorvu Kulon. They all came close. Irvuvia in a mixture. Yelodim the youngsters were pushing the older, etc. It was a whole big, the way they came to ask for it. That already told them that there was problems over here. He shouldn't. Hiskim lebakoshosom shel Yisrael. And yet, he agreed to their request. Which was again against Moshe Rabbeinu's will. Moshe Rabbeinu didn't really want to send them. He was just trying to get him off his back by saying that you can go if you want, and they insisted. But Moshe Rabbeinu didn't really want, but he sent them anyway. So so we have an issue. Why did he send them that? But for whatever reason, we see the issue came right from the start when they all came to ask for sending Meraglim. So he said, so we see that even before them, he didn't hold back from sending them. Whatever the reason is, we don't know maybe the reason. But Moshe Rabbeinu sent them even though he wasn't happy with it. Even though their intention wasn't for good. So you're going to say, Im Kain, Shuv ein lishel gam benidin dedat. So maybe there is no question also. In our case, we're asking. Moshe Rabbeinu sees that the spies are no good. Why does he send them? Well, we can ask that also in our case. Lama le'ikev sheluach hameraglim la'achrei shehirgish Moshe kavanosam l'ro. How come he did not stop them if he felt that they were bad? Because for some reason, Moshe Rabbeinu still set them, like we see. So what the Rebbe is saying, why are we asking? He's asking the question with another question, basically. We're asking over here, why did he send them once he felt that they were bad? So you're going to say, well, the same question is, why did he send them all together when to begin with? He wasn't happy with it. But if for whatever reason he wanted to send them, maybe that's why he didn't stop it over here too. But the Rebbe says these two things are not comparable. There's a difference between just sending general shlichus when it's not necessary, and to see that the people that you're sending are bad. You cannot say that he had to send them anyways, that for some reason, because Kichilu Godel Bedover, there's a big distinction between it. Bepirush Rashi Anal Hamaduber B'Bakoshes B'nei Yisrael. That Rashi and Devorim that we're discussing is talking about a request, he didn't request. Why did they want to send? They didn't believe in the good of the land. Okay, we can prove that. That's nothing wrong. At the end of the day. Eibishter wasn't happy, didn't find favor in the eyes of Hashem. I told her that it's good. So the Eibishter is not happy that they're questioning it. But move on. But so now we understand why Moshe Rabbeinu agreed. Because then you'll see that he's not afraid to tell them. To send the people to the that's going to prove to them that the land is good. So he agreed to that. And therefore they are going to retract. They want to see the land. The fact that Moshe Rabbeinu is offering to send them, that alone will be sufficient for them. Okay. Now, even after he did this ploy and they weren't happy, they still wanted to send. The fact that he also agreed to Meraglim, even after seeing they did not retract. No, Moshe Rabbeinu tried to tell them, you can go, and maybe they will change their mind. No, they didn't change their mind. We want to go. So why did Moshe Rabbeinu send them now? We can explain. That's why he chose righteous men, Rosh Bnei Yisrael, Kolosha Rashi b'Parshas Devorim, Min haberurim shabachem, Min hamsulotim shabachem. Rashi says he put Ksherim, the Rosh Bnei Yisrael. Those were the chosen one amongst the Yidden, the elite from the Sulotim shabachem, the fine flour, the best kind of flour. These were the most important people. That he relied on them, they are going to see the good of the land. They'll also bring with them from the fruit of the land. And that way, it will be verified for the Yidden with the vividly actually seeing, they'll have the fruit in front of them. So we had reason to believe, to send them, to actually show them. It'll increase their desire to go up to Eretz Yisrael because they can actually see it. So that's not such a problem why Moshe Rabbeinu agreed after he saw that they did not retract. I mean, that would be probably not businesslike to offer the donkey rider to go try it, and if he says, okay, I want to try it. Oh, no, now you can't try it. So Moshe Rabbeinu basically committed to it before, but the Rebbe explains that it wasn't something we can explain. It wasn't so bad because Moshe Rabbeinu chose people. Okay, prove to them. Yes, maybe they didn't need to, but if they're asking for it and they want to actually see it, let me show them. And he was confident that these Meraglim will give them the incentive not only to agree to go, not only to be convinced, they'll be more enthusiastic about going to Eretz Yisrael. So that explains there. But if now we're saying that the Meraglim themselves were suspect, why does he send them? Avol im timtza loymar shemoshe hirgish ba'anoshim shebachar bahem atzmo. If Moshe felt that these people that he himself chose, those people themselves, they have bad intentions, so there's no room why send them. Umadua lo yishtadel la'akvom. Why did it not put an effort to stop them? Why did Moshe Rabbeinu stop them if he felt bad? And the Rebbe, this is such a strong question that the Rebbe says that that's not when Moshe Rabbeinu prayed was not because they were trying something bad. And because if they were trying, if they were bad, Moshe Rabbeinu wouldn't have said them. It means something else, as the Rebbe will explain. These two matters. That they were kosher, that is true. But it still does not conflict. Hashem should protect you from that tzas meraglim does not mean that they're not kosher. And still you got to pursue. To begin with, there's no contradiction here. Like we said later, we don't have to answer that at that point it was later. To beginning, the Rebbe is saying we have to say, since Moshe Rabbeinu is sending them, so they were kosher, and yet we need to pray for the Meraglim, for Yehoshua to protect you from that Sas Meraglim. As the Rebbe will explain, it doesn't mean that he wanted bad, but it was something that could develop to something bad. And Moshe Rabbeinu wanted Yehoshua, as the Rebbe will continue to explain now in Ois Gimel. The Rebbe is going to explain now that the in Ois Gimel that the key to understanding is by Rashi using the Loshen Atzas, the counsel of the Meraglim, and not talking. There's no implied here anything bad. It was only the Atzas Meraglim already was he wanted to protect them from even the advice, not bad advice, just the advice, because that itself could maybe lead perhaps to something worse, as the Rebbe explains now in the Ois Gimel. Rashi. We'll understand this by first introducing Rashi's language. Yudke Yoshiacho Ma'atzas Meraglim. Hashem should protect you, Rashi writes, from the advice of the Meraglim. Why had Loshen Atzas? Well, Derech Zelekama, there's also later on in Rashi, Gabi Kolev, when it says that Kolev came to Hebron, Medayik Rashi says a very precise language. Nishtatech shenishtatech al kivri ovis. He spread himself out. He was praying on the kvorim in Hebron, on the kvorim of the forefathers. Shaloyeh nisas lachaveidov. He should not be convinced, persuaded to his buddies, to the other spies, Lius ba'atzosam, to be in their counsel. Rashi uses the word counsel over here too. Rashi is careful not to use Lius in their sin or Lius in their bad, just in their counsel. Yeshicha matzas meraglim Lius ba'atzos. L'chayre hoyamasim yoyser l'ishtamesh b'loshen hamateres escheto. Would seem that would have been more fitting to use a language which describes their sin. Kimoi dibo. Dibo meaning bad mouthing. So should protect them from the bad of the Meraglim. Shloi nisas lidiboso. L'chayre kimoi dibo. Lo kimoi shenemar bayitziu. Dibas Oretz, they brought out the Dibas Oretz. Ukeloshen Rashi Atzmai B'tchilas HaParsha, as Rashi says himself in the beginning of the Parsha, Lama Nismocha Parshas Meraglim, the Parshas Miriam. So Rashi already said this right in the beginning of the Parsha. Why is the portion of the Meraglim but close to the story of Miriam in the end of the Parsha? Since Miriam was smitten on the matters of Diba. Iske Diba, they were hit for Diba. Diba is the negative. That it tells us that they were bad doing. Also, in the continuation, Rashi says they were intended to badmouth it. So why doesn't Rashi say protect you from the bad mouthing of the Meraglim? Or Meraglim, but this is Rashi uses specifically the language. Why does Rashi lose the Lashon advice in these two Rashis over here by Yudke Yeshircho Matzas and by Kolev, where Rashi already used the word Diba before, right in the beginning. The Rebbe says Shebedavke Nokat Rashi Lashon Zu. Rashi specifically uses this language lahadgish to emphasize she'ein kavanose loimar shashem yishiyah b'cheta Meraglim. His intention is not that to say that Hashem should protect him from the sin of the Meraglim. Because at that time they were kosher. V'lohoyu shayochim l'cheit shel diba v'chulu. That's why Rashi says it was only advice, because they were kosher. They weren't yet the diva. Lorak be'atzas meraglim, only the advice of the meraglim. Eitz stam doesn't even say bad. Lav davke eitzara. He wants to protect them from their advice, from their counsel. Shezen is chadish lagach hakach beis halichosa. The bad advice that came, the eitzara that came when they were walking. Halichosam be'itzara. There says a bad advice. But here was Kinal Sifal Mefarshim that Vayelchu Vayavoyu, that later on it was the bad counsel. But over here it was advice, but not bad advice. Badrabe, Kivon Shoisuk Shok Shedim Hoyo, Badai Shazu Hoiso Etzlam Eitzoteva. Since they were Shedim Hoyo, it was a good advice, it wasn't bad. It was certainly was a good counsel. But yet he had to pray for him. Even though this was advice, a counsel, and nothing bad, Hashem should protect you. It was probably good advice. Even though the intention was for the good, but nevertheless, it is possible that their advice to bring us to a mistake, as it actually took place in actuality. They started off with just advice. Counsel itself is the problem, as the Rebbe will explain. And that's why he davened that Hashem should protect him. The counsel itself was the issue over here. And he protected from that. But it wasn't bad. And that's why Rashi doesn't use a lotion of diba or chet. It's all good for now. But Eitzah, by definition, is something that you need to be protected from, and that is what that Moshe Rabbeinu prayed for Yehoshua, and that's also what Kolev prayed for himself from the advice. Although by Kolev, it was already Beis Halichosom, and Rebbe doesn't address it over here, but and over there also says Eitzah Stam, but if Beis Halichosom, but maybe it was the Halichosom after this Halicha. It doesn't say exactly what point of the Halicha over here, but that's another point. Ois Dalet. So the Rebbe now is going to explain this whole idea by showing that in the parsha, it doesn't use the word Meraglim. It uses the word Losur. The Rebbe is going to make a distinction between the meaning of Losur. Losur would mean scouting, which is just to see what's going on. But Meragil, to spy, is to use what you see and to concoct and try to figure out ways. The Rebbe is going to explain that Moshe Rabbeinu just sent them to see. But what they added to the is they were going to spy. That's more than just see. Leragel, they want. So that was something that Moshe worried about. So he prayed for Yehoshua, and then later on, Kalev also prayed. It wasn't bad. It doesn't say Meraglim. Moshe didn't have a reason to cancel because they didn't do anything bad, but it was not what he asked for. And this could lead, and that's why he was praying for Yehoshua. Let's look inside. Dalit, Birenia. In the entire portion, the mission of the Meraglim is described Beloshin Tur, to scout, like the verse says, Vayeshuv mitur vayosuru es eretz Canaan, and they scouted the land of Canaan, or Tur Horetz, they scouted the land. Torim, scouters, Kuyetzvay, similar. The Torah always uses the Lashon of Torim. V'lo niskira apam achaz beparshasenu, and not even once in the parsha is there mentioned Lashon Meraglim, the language of Meraglim, b'kesher l'shlichazu, in connection to this shlichus. In the parsha, it doesn't mention at all. Now, that doesn't mean inherently Meraglim are bad. We find Meraglim is okay. To be a Meragil or to Meragil could be fine, but that wasn't the mission here, as the Rebbe will explain. The Rebbe first says, "Ve'ein zeh mishum sheyesh chesoron v'toichen b'tirotzui b'shiluach Meraglim." It's not that there is something wrong, something lacking, and there's something not desirable when you send Meraglim. Because we do find later on in the portion of Chukos, even after this, Moshe Rabbeinu sent to spy out the land of Yazir. And Yeshua sent Meraglim. So there is nothing wrong with sending Meraglim, as Moshe Rabbeinu himself did later on, as Yehoshua did. They sent Meraglim. But here, it doesn't say Meraglim. It says Tur. Why? What's the difference? So what's the reason? We can say, why does it not use the word Meraglim? So the Rebbe said, what's the difference between saying to scout or say to spy? The difference between the two languages, losur, to scout, or leragil, or to spy, who, different. Losur metair beiker, when you say to scout, that mainly describes rak pa'ulas achipush v'hariya. It just describes the act of searching and what you see. Bilvad, only that. Ubi in now, what was there to scout? Riyasa oritz v'yeshveh, to see the land and its inhabitants. Masha'enkein loshen rigul, as opposed to spying the language of rigul, moide al chakira v'chipus l'shem kavona nistora, that points to an investigation and a searching for some hidden intent here. You have something hiding. You are meragel. K'moy berigul ha'mesayeya l'kibush eretz ha'oyev, like when you go and spy, which helps you to conquer the land of the enemy. You're not just going to see it over there, you're going to be meragil it, because you're looking of ways how to help you conquer that land. We find this earlier in the portion of Miketz, as it pertains to Yosef and his brothers. So what does Yosef say to his brothers? He says to them, Yosef says to his brothers, Meraglim atem, you are spies, as he says it, lirois es ervas oretz basem. You have come to see the nakedness of this land. You want to see where you can conquer it. Upirush Rashi, what does it mean, ervas? Gilui horetz, the revelation revealed, mehechin, He noichal likovish, from where it's easy to conquer it. So you see that Meraglim, to see, means you're here to search out, to try to find ways how to conquer. In a general way, the idea of spying is tied to the wisdom and to the intellect of the one who's spying. Based on his investigation, his search, then you can come to advice how to fulfill a specific task. That's the Meraglim. The Meraglim is helping to figure out and consult how to fulfill a mission. Kibush Eretz if the case is to conquer the land of the enemy. So now we understand V'zeu atam shebeparshaseinu nemro rak loshin losur eseretz Canaan. That's why in our parsha it only says losur. Oh, is this the counter land of Canaan? Why? Because the Rebbe says this was actually what Moshe Rabbeinu had in mind. Kikol inyan hashlichus mekavonos Moshe. What was the entire concept of the shlichus that was in Moshe's intent? Hoyorak al hamaisa. He just wanted them to see. He didn't want them to advise. He didn't want them to consult. He didn't want them to figure out. They should see the land and its inhabitants. They should relate to the Yidden. Which they saw. And also, in addition, the Chain Lahavi Mipriya Oretz, also to bring from the fruit of the land, Kidei Laharis Yisrael Mituva Oretz, to show the Yidden the good of the land. But the Sulamidi, nothing else. Avaloi Liragiles Oretz, we didn't send them to go ahead and spy out the land. That's not what Moshe Rabbeinu sent them. That wasn't his intent. That's why the pasuk doesn't ever use the lashon of Liragil, only says losur. He didn't send them to enter, to put themselves in, to look for advice, v'tachbulis and tricks, for conquering the land, or similar. He didn't ask that from them. He didn't want them to find ways and tricks. So now we can understand what is the content of Moshe Rabbeinu's prayer. Yudke Yoshiacho, Ma'atzas Meraglim. May Hashem help you, protect you from the advice of the Meraglim. Even though Moshe emphasized to the people that he doesn't want them to be Meraglim, he wants only to loser. He just wants them to scout it, not to figure out. So Moshe emphasized Lanosh v'shabocha to those people that he chose. The purpose of the shlichus is only to search the land of Canaan. So as soon and immediately when they gathered by him, so he felt that they see themselves Likutei Bilvad, not just the scouters, Meraglim. Now they already owes their spies. That means that they saw themselves. Besides the actual action to go and see the land, which is what he wanted them to do, they saw themselves more. They should sit and figure out advice. Ulahasik maskones, and to come to conclusion. Al Yisoida Rigel, based on their spying, which are important to conquer the Eretz Yisrael. So Moshe Rabbeinu said them just to look and to see and report back and to bring the fruit. They looked at themselves, no, that we have to come and we have to figure out and we have to spy it out, and that's the way that we need to do. And this is what Moshe Rabbeinu davened. Yudke Yoshiacho Matzas Meraglim. May the Eibishter help you from the counsel of the Meraglim, for being in their counsel. Av she'adayin loy hoyo ba'atzosam shum chet. Even though there was no sin yet in their advice. They didn't do anything wrong yet. So they really didn't do anything wrong. There was nothing wrong with wanting to be also spies beyond what they were asked to. They were kosher. They didn't do anything wrong then. V'chol kavanosam hoyso rak l'tachis eitzes tovis. All what they wanted is to give good advice, eich l'sayeya berigulam l'kibush haaretz, how to help with their spying to conquer the land. V'chulu. So Moshe Rabbeinu still was worried. Moshe Rabbeinu prayed. He didn't want him to have a part in the advice, in the counsel, in the rigor of the Meraglim. He should remain faithful to the goal of the Shlichus. It was only and just to scout the land of Canaan. That's what he sent them to do, and that's what he wanted them to do. And he didn't want Yehoshua to get involved. Without getting involving into this, giving advice, etc. Why? Because once you have a conduct of atzas meraglim, alulo lahovili denefila, that is could bring to a fall, k'dlakama sivhei, as we learned later on sivhei. V'apizei yesh leimar shazu hoyso gam kavonos kolev b'tfilosei. This was actually also what Kolev davened for. He shouldn't be persuaded to his friend to be part of their counsel, is to go ahead and be a meragel instead of just looking what it is. He doesn't Rashi doesn't say in their bad at the kitzvah. Yes, loymar, because we can say at that point. Adayin loynoida lekolev. The Rebbe said lekolev because before Rashi says mahalichosom, but Kolev didn't know yet at that time shalichosom beitzoro that they're going. They hadn't known it yet, so he was only praying not to become entrenched in the advice, giving advice. But he prays he shouldn't be persuaded, even if for good advice. Come. Even the good advice. Because he was faithful to the shlichus of Moshe. Without tilting even a drop from the goal. Rak losuras oretz, just to scout the land, not to spy the land. V'loy liyas chaver le'atzas meraglim, and not to be a party to the council, which is meraglim, which makes the meraglim. So, while it was necessary for Yehoshua to daven for Moshe to daven for Yehoshua, and for Kolev to pray not to be persuaded, but they didn't do anything wrong. There was no reason to not to send them. They didn't have a sufficient reason levatil shlichusam to negate and stop their shlichus. That they saw themselves at that time, while they were still kosher, as spies, that doesn't necessitate that for sure it's going to be to bad results. It's only a worry. So therefore, Moshe Rabbeinu, the Rebbe explained, wanted them just to be scouters and not to advise and not to become Meraglim. He just wanted them to see the facts and bring from the fruit. They took it upon themselves to become Meraglim. Now, nothing wrong. They wanted good advice. But yet it's advice. Moshe Rabbeinu prayed for Yeshua, don't even go for good advice, because good advice can lead eventually to something negative, as it does. Same thing is with Kolev. Kolev prayed because perhaps at the time he didn't know yet that they were up to bad advice. He didn't know yet, so he thought that it's only advice, but still he prayed not to get persuaded to go into this being advice versus just telling the facts. And still, on the other hand, Moshe Rabbeinu could not take away the shlichus from the uh, scouts of the Meraglim, because since they didn't do anything wrong, they were kosher at the time. It was only that they wanted to put in the 2 cents. He did not mevatel, because it doesn't have to come something negative. But at the end, this is what happened. But Moshe Rabbeinu was praying for Yehoshua, and Kolev was praying for himself not to get caught up in this. I say. So now that we're saying that this has to do with the extra advice that they're trying to give, this explains to us another thing: is how could they fail so miserably? The scouts, which were old Keshedim, and all of a sudden they turned it around. But now we understand, because they looked at themselves as Meraglim, as advisors, and once you start an advisor, it's a slippery slope, and they ended up coming with a bad report. Hey, based on this, will be explained another surprising matter, B'Parshas Meraglim. So we don't find Rashi to address this issue. How is it possible that these people who are chosen, exceptionally elite people, Moshe by himself chose them for this mission. From the understand that Moshe Rabbeinu chose them, that they were the most fitting of all Jews to fill the shlichus. That's why he chose them. So how is it possible that these elite, best shluchim yohofchu min hakotza lakotza, that they should turn around from one extreme to the other extreme, liyaschoitim umachtimim, to be sinners and causing others to sin, al shemordu b'Hashem, until they rebelled against Hashem. We can't go up because he's stronger even than Hashem. They were saying, Rashi, so to speak, they said it for Hashem, that these people that live there are stronger than him, than Hashem, not from us, but from Hashem. That's as far as they went. How could they sink so lowly from being the greatest level chosen by Moshe Rabbeinu? But based on the above, we can say that in this specific, precise language that Rashi uses, and he says atzas meraglim, advice of the meraglim, merumas hashoirish v'hasiba, that hints to the root and the cause. Rashi doesn't explain it openly, but this is the hint, and explains the hint and the cause. That brought them to one descent after the other, to the extent they rebelled Hashem, against Hashem. Haloshin Eitzo, the language counsel, that points for the need to search and to find a trick. You're finding something specific through a hidden, concealed, and obscure intent. We find out something. So that it shouldn't be known to the opponent. So you find it in a roundabout way. The same thing is the matter in this counsel of the Meraglim. The idea of spying requires to come up with advice and tricks. How to trick, how to cover, how to block the goal of their coming. That way, they have to hide. What are you doing here? Why'd you come here? So they have to be able to hide it up. So in order for them to be successful, to accomplish as matarosam, their goal, without being known to the one who may try to stop it. So they have to do it in a obscure and a hidden way. It's a trick. We find this already earlier with regards to Yosef and his brother. So he says to his brothers when he disguises himself, Yosef Lecha, Meraglim atem liris es ervas haoretz basar. You are spies. You came to see the nakedness, the revelation where you can conquer the land. Vayemru Elov, and they responded, Lo yadoini, bavadecha bo lishberecha. No, my master. We are your servants. We just came to buy food. We didn't come to spy. Hainu. So what do you see? Shelidivrei Yosef, according to Yosef's accusation, halimu asamatora hamitis. They hid the true intention. They were coming to spy. Shebiglolabo Mitzrayim. They came to Mitzrayim. So when he's telling them spies, meaning they a trick, they concealed the real purpose of coming to Mitzrayim under the gaze that come to buy food. Liris as ervas oretz. You came to see the ervas oretz. Ba'amram shabo lishbaroichel. You say you came to buy food. V'nimtzo. So what does it turn out? She'inyan harigul k'shela'atzmei doirish hanhaga shel ormo vastoros emes. Just by definition, to spy required conniving and hiding the truth. And that's the only way to be successful in accomplishing the spying that you're trying to spy. Because otherwise you'll be detected and you won't be able to be successful. And this is the reason Moshe Rabbeinu wanted that their mission should be limited only to the actual action. Losuras Eretz Canaan, just to scout, see the land of Canaan, Mibli sheyeyosu Meraglim, without being made into spies. Yikonsu be'etzu v'tachbulus, to enter into ideas and tricks, shel orma, of deceit, vastoras ha'emes, and hiding the truth, trickery and hiding the truth. He didn't want them to get involved. To the extent that it could push them away from the measure of truth, not becoming conniving. So even when the intent to beginning is for a good purpose, a good goal, they want to conquer Eretz Yisrael. They're thinking thoughts and tricks for a good advice. Sometimes we have no choice. Sometimes we have to send Meraglim because without that we need it. Without sending Meraglim, naturally we can't win the enemy. That's why he sent to spy Yazoo. There's nothing wrong inherently in the regal and spying when you need it. But here, but it requires this kind of conniving and hiding the truth. So, still, Moshe Rabbeinu, when it wasn't that, he didn't want him to use it. Soif haramidas harmumius vastoros as this measure of conniving, trickery, and hiding the truth. This can bring a person down from one step to the next step. It requires very great care not to stumble, because once you go down, it can go further. After Moshe Rabbeinu felt that they consider themselves Meraglim now. He wanted them to be scouts. They are now spies. Hispalel Tekava Yeshua Talmidei. So he immediately prayed for Yeshua, who was a student. That's why he was more concerned for Yeshua, because he was a student. Yudke Yeshecha Matzes Meraglim, may Hashem protect you from the advice of the Meraglim, of being an advisor, because that is a point of danger. We should not have a part in their counsel, even if it's good. In trickery, in hiding, in tricks, he doesn't want him to be involved. So he has no connection to the advice of the Meraglim. So therefore, they didn't do anything wrong. Moshe Rabbeinu didn't really want them to become, but it wasn't enough for him to remove them. But he didn't want. But as soon as you enter the level of atzas, there's like right away a danger, and he didn't want Yeshua to be involved. That. We could make it even sweeter, this idea, based on what's explained in Chazal. Moshe with truth had a special relationship, only truth. His measure was truth. So even for purposes of Moshe, if you want to stay connected with Moshe, you have to stick with the truth. Moshe's measure is emes, and emes is Moshe. Moshe emes. Shelachein nitna Torah al yodi, and that's why the Torah was given to Moshe. Kizeu in Yonashal Torah, because this is what Torah is. Torah's emes, a true Torah. Truth. That's what Torah. Moshe Rabbeinu is a measure of truth. In order to be a shliach of Moshe, shlucha shlom k'Moshe, a shliach of a person like himself, k'Moshe the Mashalech mamish, to be exactly the Mashalech. It's impossible by the shliach that there should be any moving away from truth. If you're a shliach of Moshe Rabbeinu is emes, it has to be truth. Moshe Rabbeinu is the one who gave us the Torah, which is emes. This word, Moshe shliach was only losur as haaretz. Just to scout it and not to spy it. Because in this main aspect, shlichus b'shaychus the knis loretz. When we're dealing with shlichus, some other time by Yazir, other places, Moshe Rabbeinu has to send spies. Okay, but when we're talking about a shlichus to get into the land of Eretz Yisrael, the power of the Meshaleach needs to be from Goli, needs to be open. Can be no hidden, and it needs to be open to go into Eretz Yisrael, which means the truth has to be open. And from the fact that the shluchim moved away from the line of their shlichus, and they took themselves as spies, the power of the Meshaleach was nullified by them. In addition, they changed, so there's no more saying they were scouts and now they're spies. He didn't send them to be spies. So besides that, the shlichus is bottled because they changed from what they were sent. Through the fact that he changes into something main, is botlo hashlichus, is the shlichus bottled because that's a main part is losur and not l'ragel. Here they were in essence disqualified. It can't be no more shluchei Moshe. Not only they changed the shlichus, but there can't be shluchei Moshe. Ki efsher shem you ki Moshe de Moshe. They cannot be like Moshe. Shemidos midas emes. Moshe is emes, and you can't be a shliach of Moshe. It is not emes. Berak Yeshua v'kolev, and it's only Yeshua v'kolev. They have not been persuaded to the counsel of the Meraglim. Nisharu shluchim Moshe. They only the ones that remain to shluchim shel Moshe. V'zeh gufa shomrom, and that itself, that they always remained faithful to the shlichus of Moshe, that protected them. Shloi notu me'akavone u'matorah shlichusam, that they did not tilt away from the intent and the goal of the shlichus. V'amru, and they said, Toiva ha'oretz ma'od ma'od al tiru as am ha'oretz ki lachmeinu hein al tirom. They said the truth. The land is good. Don't be afraid. We'll take care of them. Lachmeinu hein al tirom. Don't be afraid. Shumkach zochu l'kones la'oretz. That's why they merited to enter the land. V'ad shechoyu min ha'anoshim. They remained alive from those people who didn't make it, from all these other spies. They remained alive to go into Eretz Yisrael. Shenotlu chelkom shemeraglim ba'oretz. They took the portion of the Meraglim in the land, and they stood up in their place for life. This is Sichos Shabbos Parsha Shelach Tavshin Mem Hey.